when we get started, I'm just going to ask the presenters and the fife and drum to stand. Audience can stay seated. And then we're going to have them play music, and the flags and the honor guard are going to parade into the front here. So that'll be the start of the program. I'm overwhelmed by the turnout here. I guess we timed it right. If it was the middle of a snowstorm, I would be standing here by myself. Okay. All right, fife and drum, prepare to play a tune called "The Garb of Old Gaul." This is no significance to Carlisle, but it's kind of a processional tune. Those of you that are not carrying a flag or a musket may be seated. So welcome to this afternoon's ceremony. I just are going to introduce a few of the presenters here today. To my right, we have David Gordon, who's grew up in Carlisle and is long-term Carlisle Minuteman. Then I have Jeff Larson here carrying the original town flag. Jeff was part of the Minutemen in 1975. And on my left, I have Fred Seward, who's carrying the flag that was at Bunker Hill. Fred is part of our modern contingent of Carlisle Minutemen. And then Bob Scrivanik is the honor guard here, also a member of today's Carlisle Minutemen. Now, behind me, I'm afraid maybe you could scoot over a little bit there, David. I have Beverly Heath and her son Eric. Beverly, original constructor of this town flag that's here. Back in the early 70s, she put that flag together. And on my left, we have your select board chair, Travis Snell, and then we have Mary Beth Stevenson, who constructed the replica flag, and then sitting next to her is Alan Lewis, who will be contributing remarks on behalf of his wife, Barbara. And finally, we have the fife and drum group, which is actually out of Concord Fife and Drum. Thank you. And then lastly, we have Ryan McLean, our town administrator here, sitting with his daughter, Kayla. She'll be the next generation town administrator for us. Okay. At this point, I'd like to ask Travis Snell to give us some opening remarks.
Thank you, Scott. I just wanted to, on behalf of the Select Board and the Town of Carlisle, thank you all for coming today. This is really an extraordinary event, and it's really we're very grateful as a town to have such volunteers and people who are willing to step up and make our community so strong. So with no further ado, I really wanted to pass this over to the people who are making this event happen. But thank you all for showing up, and we welcome this ceremony.
Travis has clearly learned that short is best. All right, so I have a fair amount of material to read, which is, a lot of it was from the Mosquito. And you're going to learn a little bit about the town history here. Some of it is little known by today's citizens. So I'm going to start with the beginning for this flag, essentially, which started with the town seal redesign. All right, this comes from a Mosquito article of December 17, 2004, submitted by, Connie Manoli Skoke, the archivist for the Carlisle Historical Society at the time. So in 1969, with a bicentennial on the horizon, the Carlisle Colonial Minutemen, with the cooperation of the selectmen, began to explore the idea of redesigning the town seal. Other nearby communities had made the decision to redesign their seals to tell the story of their town. A new seal might better reflect Carlisle's character and the existing, better than the existing corporate seal. The original seal is a simple design of a series of circles enclosed with the words Town of Carlisle, Massachusetts, incorporated in the district as a district in April 19, 1754, and as a town on February 18, 1805. And it was approved by a town meeting vote in 1897. That's the one you see on the town annual report, among a few other places. To gather ideas for the new design, the Carlisle Town Seal Design Competition was announced by the Carlisle Minutemen. Participants were to use their imagination when creating their designs. The only restrictions were that the final product must incorporate the words Carlisle and Massachusetts, and that it could be scaled to a large or small format as needed. Well, I have an original from my Minuteman records here of the rules of the competition. The design competition is open to all Carlisle residents without restriction. The competition will run from April 19th to July 4th, 1969. The entries must be submitted in color and contained with a circular border approximately 8 inches in diameter on cardstock approximately 11 inches square. The design must contain the words Carlisle, Massachusetts, which I said earlier, and entries are to be submitted to Robert Heath of Brook Street and Jay DeMont from Autumn Lane, so two of the Minutemen at the time. Designs will be judged on their conceptual merit, not artistic quality, and relevance to the uniqueness of the town of Carlisle, historical and geographical. So the judges, there were 3 judges. Arthur Taylor, who's chair of the Carlisle Selectmen at that point, Donald Lapham, the historian, many of you know his name, and David Niles, who was a commercial artist. And then the winner would be announced later that September of that year. Bob Thompson, who was a member of the Carlisle Minutemen at that time, design was selected as the winner. And Thompson's complete design was uses the outline of Carlisle that has been divided into 4 quadrants. The upper left quadrant contains several tall pines. These trees symbolize the importance of woodlands to the town, but also represent the ancient Carlisle pines. The upper right quadrant is the rendering of the meeting house, symbolizing the strong moral belief of the community as well as the town meeting form of government. Carlisle's long farming tradition, represented by the image of a plow, is in the lower right quadrant, and a hatchet overlain by a tricorn hat in the lower left quadrant represents the 2 cultures that have occupied the land of Carlisle. Thompson also included the 1754 and 1780, the dates that mark Carlisle's 2 tenures as a district, and then the 1805 year it was finally incorporated as a town. Together, these elements depict the history of the town of Carlisle, just as Bob Thompson intended when he designed the seal, now 56 years ago. Though it was ultimately voted not to adopt Thompson's design as the official town seal, the original seal prevailed. His imaginative rendering of Carlisle's history has become more recognizable today than the original. There it is. As well as many other places around town, and I think even I was a little bit surprised when I read, well, it's not actually the town, official town seal. I think we all kind of assumed that. Now, the flag. So in 1971, the Carlisle Minutemen, anticipating the upcoming bicentennial celebrations, had decided that Carlisle needed a flag that reflected the history and culture of the town, and that it could be carried by the Minutemen or other town groups at bicentennial as well as other future events. The design they selected utilized the proposed town seal from 1969 and placed it on a 38 by 48-inch field of brown. And here was the result. This was followed by, in 1973, the Carlisle Minutemen drafted Article 44, which was presented at the spring town meeting, and proposing that the town should approve this flag as the official town flag. The article passed unanimously. And thus, you've always had a town flag, although many of you probably didn't know it. Now I invite Beverly Heath and her son Eric to provide some comments about the original construction of the flag, and I don't know whether you have any comments about town meeting. Were you the one that was there?
I will throw that in.
Okay, yeah. Very good. So
All right. Well, it's very, very nice to be invited today. We grew up on the corner of Brook Street and Page Brook Road. I can't quite remember the street number, but the house is, of course, still there.
214, I
214
think.
Brook Street. There we go. There we go. We were very, very heavily involved with the Minutemen at the time. We did things as a family with the Minutemen. We were in lots of parades. Robert Heath, who was one of the two people to whom you were to mail your design, was Dad, and he was an electrical engineer. He loved projects of almost any kind, so he just dug into this stuff. And my brother Jeff and I both drew up designs and sent them in to Dad, and neither of our designs was picked, but really the best one was. So I remember, as you're reading the history, I remember the consternation in our house when town meeting would not approve this design as the town seal over what I considered a very boring corporate seal. And I was kind of, well, I'm a geek now, but I was a government geek even at the time. I would go to town meeting. I would ask my parents if I could come to town meeting, partly because I could stay up really late. Number two, yeah, you hear me. Number two, I was really just interested in the mechanics, and you got to hear who the town cranks were. So anyway.
You also got to sit up near the stage.
I got to sit near the front because that's where the visitors could be. So anyway, once Mom had made the flag, it was presented, and this was one of the last warrants on town meeting. It was late. It was probably around 11 o'clock, who knows. And my dad was helping present, and he motioned to me to help hold the flag out, just like he did. And the mosquito, as I remember, wrote it up as, "I sat there all night long just to hold the flag." I was hurt because I was there because I was interested. At any rate, come on over to the mic, Mom.
Okay.
So I considered Mom the Betsy Ross of Carlisle, you know, and we've been talking about our memories of it. So there was the design, and we were talking about how the heck the design, about yay big, I suppose, became the parts to sew onto the flag. And I think we are guessing that Dad, with his engineering skill, somehow reduced the sizes and helped produce the pieces. But this was 50 years ago, but what do you remember about putting the flag together?
Since I'm now 89, I don't remember a whole lot. I know that the sewing machine got brought upstairs from my workroom into the living room. His dad pulled it up there, and so I could be with the rest of the family instead of isolated downstairs. I really can't say that I remember a whole lot about doing it. I felt honored to do it. Had no idea that we would end up like this. But I like to sew, and I loved it, and I'm very proud, actually.
It's held up nicely, Mom.
It has.
Yeah.
Probably because it hasn't been used a lot.
I was trying to remember in our series of emails. Where are you going, Mom? Going to go look at it? Good. She's checking her stitching. I was trying to remember whether or not we did carry it on April 19 of 75 at the bicentennial of, the shot heard around the world. President Ford came, and I do remember distinctly being told by my dad that the Secret Service said, don't move when President Ford walks down the still dirt road to the bridge. So being 14, I stood stock still. I didn't move my head. I barely moved my eyes, but my memory, which may be entirely faulty, but in my memory, I saw Gerald Ford when he passed this narrow field of vision as I stood still. I don't remember if we had the flag because we may have been told not to bring flags and guidons and things that could look like weapons.
Well, we have in our historical records
Yes.
pictures of the Carlisle Minutemen leaving Carlisle with these two flags
Wonderful.
on April 19th, 1975. So we are truly
It was there.
used that ceremony to, not unveil it, because it had apparently been actually carried at a couple of ceremonies before April 19th.
Yeah.
But we had it on April 19th, 1975. And it will be carried this year on April 19th, 2025.
That's pretty cool.
Good,
Very good.
Thank you.
good.
Thank you. Good to know that having to put that together solo didn't ruin her love of sewing. Had to be a lot of work.
It was.
Okay, so now we move on to the replica flag. Again, I'm reading a piece that was in the Mosquito article on February 6, 2019, written by Cynthia Sorn. It reads as follows. Of the 351 Massachusetts cities and towns, Carlisle is one of approximately 20 towns that does not have a flag displayed in the Great Hall at the Massachusetts State House. The Board of Selectmen learned about the omission when Barbara Lewis of East Riding Drive spoke at its meeting on January 29th. She noted that it was not too late to submit a flag. Williamsburg had placed their flag in the hall just in November of the year before. And Lewis learned of the display of flags from Marjorie Johnson of Ember Lane, who noticed the lack of a Carlisle flag during a tour of the State House that previous fall. The Great Hall on the second floor of the State House is lined with flags from towns in Massachusetts, placed in chronological order of when they were founded. Plymouth, founded in 1620, was the first flag. There's a placeholder flag pole for the Carlisle flag. Reached later, Johnson said that she understood from the State House tour guide that the Great Hall was created in 1990, enclosing an outdoor courtyard used as a function room. The acoustics were in need of dampening, and flags were suggested as a way to cut down on the echo of the three-story room. Johnson said she thought to reach out to Lewis because of her sewing experience and creativity, and her husband was a selectman at the time. Lewis told the selectmen that with the help of former town clerk Charlene Hinton, they located an official Carlisle flag approved by the town in 1973, as we just reviewed, and currently kept by the Carlisle Minutemen, me. She gave the selectmen a picture of the flag, which has the seal of Carlisle centered on the dark brown background. So even back then, we assumed that was the seal of the town. Lewis said that she will investigate how a new flag could be created along with cost estimates. The Board of Selectmen Chair, Nathan Brown, thanked her for her efforts. Now, the original flag was kept by me as captain of the Carlisle Minutemen. And I then met with Barbara Lewis at the Gleason Library so she could examine the flag and first look at, examine it for overall condition of the flag and determine if the colors had faded or changed over time, determine the fabric type and weight, and the overall construction. The biggest challenge would be the physical requirements for the State House flag, which must be 48 by 72 inches and have a 3-inch sleeve on one edge for the pole. The original flag, this one here, is 38 by 48 inches with no sleeve. We would have to scale it up. So being an engineer, this appealed to me, so I started by taking this flag and I stood on a chair so I could look straight down on it, and I took a picture with a digital camera, something that Father certainly didn't have back then. I then scaled it to the correct dimensions and then printed it out as a full-size flag on 8.5 by 11 inches pieces of paper, and then I cut them all and taped it all together, so I ended up making basically a full-size pattern. And then I met with Barbara again to explain how I had scaled it and the overall design, and handed her the plan and the original flag, and I said, good luck. So now I invite Alan Lewis and his wife's behalf here to share some of his remarks or thoughts on the construction of the flag.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you very much. Well, this was indeed a labor of love of Barbara. She abhorred a vacuum, and when she found that we didn't have a flag at the State House, she decided something needed to be done about that, and so she ran with it, as she did with many other initiatives in town. I do recall, I've forgotten how the scaling was done until I read Scott's remarks last night, and realized that we didn't have Thanksgiving dinner on our dining room table one year because the flag replica, the scaling, all these sheets of paper were sat there along with her cutting out all the letters, and we really, I'm glad our town wasn't called Mattabesset or something, because it would have been a little better. But she truly enjoyed doing it, and unfortunately, while she was in the middle of all this, COVID hit, and so she kind of put the flag aside for a bit while she sewed masks and gowns for healthcare workers around the state. And then, of course, she was diagnosed with cancer in January of 2021, and didn't get back to it very much. She did work on it a little bit during the early stages, but then could not. And so she was able to arrange to have it passed on, I think, to Katie Schulten originally, and it eventually got passed to Mary Beth, I think probably through one more transfer before it got to her. And so this truly was a community effort to get the flag completed, and I know Barbara is sitting there overjoyed that the flag is finally done, and we can see it in the State House. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. So I'll fill in a couple of more of the blanks. So later, when Barbara fell ill, she contacted Peggy Wang and sent her a picture of the progress of the flag and asked Peggy if she could find someone to finish it. And when you look at the program, you'll see that there's a picture there. So Barbara went to the trouble to lay it all out, pin it all together so it would look beautiful, and took a picture of it just to let everybody know that the design was done. It just needed to now be all sewn together. after a year or so, it went to, it went to Betsy Fell's daughter, Katie Shelton, and then I think Susan Emmons ended up with it. And she contacted me last, I don't know whether it was September, I think early September, and said they didn't possess a sewing machine, right, that could do the kind of stitching required in order to produce the flag. So they were kind of stuck, and she asked me to come take the flag kit, basically in a big box, which I did. And then the task was, we got to find somebody that is willing to put it together. And I did find a number of people in town that were willing to do it. But we were under kind of a short time constraint. This is September, and we wanted to make sure that we got it done and had a ceremony prior to April 19th, because it was significant that we did the first one for the bicentennial and that this one would be for the 250th. Not that we're going to carry it, but it'll go in the State House. So Mary Beth took on the challenge, even though we knew, she had work, family obligations, the holidays coming up, et cetera, and she said it would be done by the end of January. And true to her word, she finished it in time and allowed us to put together this ceremony. So now I invite Mary Beth to give her remarks or comments on the difficulty or ease of which this was accomplished.
Thank you, Scott, and thank you to Barbara Lewis. So back in, I believe it was October, I was sitting at the dinner table and my husband said, can I ask you a question? I'm like, what do you want? And so he went on to explain that Barbara had started the flag. They would like the flag completed. Would I be interested? I said, did you commit me? And he was very honest. He said, no, I didn't commit you. You can commit yourself. So anyway, I invited Scott over and we took the flag pieces out, and I do have the box here. I believe it's still in the car. And I looked everything over and I decided that I would take the project on. Barbara had done an excellent job of replicating everything the way it needed to be replicated, and it was just a matter of just putting it all together. And so that's what I did, and I'm very pleased with how it comes out. I hope all of you are. And it's ready to go to the State House. So I've done a lot of sewing in my lifetime. I've worked with some very impressive clients, but I think this is pretty cool that something I made will be hanging in the Massachusetts State House.
Probably not that much of a surprise. So if I can ask Eric, you and your mother to hold one corner of this. Okay, there we go. Mary Beth will.
You want a lower corner? Oh, that's nice.
The Minutemen from 75 and Eric and his mother in one corner, and Mary Beth representing the next generation with Fred and Bob of the current Carlisle Minutemen. So she made it sound so easy, but it wasn't. There were a lot of things like the weight of the fabric, how would it hang, because it's going to be much bigger flag, and all of these pieces had to be scaled just like Barbara did, and Barbara did an unbelievable job of documentation. When I went through that box, everything had to be scaled and hand-drawn, cut into a template, then cut the fabric, etc. And of course, it's on both sides, so that's
Oh, it had to be done twice. Wow.
Now, we could have just said, let's just silk screen something on brown fabric and hang it at the State House. Nobody will know, right?
Yeah.
But no, we decided with the support of Mary Beth and Barbara, it had to be a real flag, an exact replica of the original one. So finally, um, one other note about the Great Hall at the State House. So in 1990, as we said earlier, that became a room at the State House, which used the flags as a sound dampening. And that original courtyard was created by Charles Brigham with additions to the State House in 1890. So the space was already there, just wasn't enclosed. The idea to enclose the courtyard came from Kitty Dukakis, the wife of then Governor Michael Dukakis. So today, the room is used for state functions and receptions. So there's a lot of formal things that go on there where our flag will now be part of the 351 towns in Massachusetts. So Town Administrator Ryan has been working with Kyle Stapleton, who is the State House legislative aide to in the office of State Representative Simon Cataldo, working on a ceremony at the State House later this spring. So we will have a formal ceremony at the State House before the flag is hung. We still got to figure out what that timing is. I kind of suggested early May, but whether we can squeeze it in before April 19th, we'll have to see. So you'll all get some notices on that. Now I'm going to have the fife and drum is going to play a final tune, and it's a medley. Medley of British Grenadiers, followed by Yankee Doodle, followed by Road to Boston. This is a traditional song medley that we play, which is in honor of April 19th, 1775 events. British Grenadiers is an acknowledgement of the British Army that was there on that day. Yankee Doodle was a tune that was adopted by the militia and minute companies as their tune, and then Road to Boston is in memory of the Battle of Concord to Boston on that day. All right, fife and drum. And finally, some closing remarks. You'll notice these kind of reinforce some words that Alan Lewis spoke about earlier. So first, thank you all for attending today. On the surface, this is a simple and brief ceremony that reminds our citizens that there is a town flag, a footnote in town history and of little notice or impact to the busy lives of our town constituents. We're saturated by a constant stream of digital content delivered to their personal devices. However, looking a little deeper, you can see that this ceremony reminds us of the unique qualities of our small town. More like a village, really, still persists. A town that still operates primarily on a volunteer government, boards and committees, protecting and improving our town, run completely by town citizens willing to invest in the betterment of the town and now and for future generations. Carlisle has maintained a small town culture where everyone pulls together for the common good, persevering when life's challenges of home and work demand otherwise. This replica flag is not just a facsimile of our town flag, but is symbolic of the culture in our town, to the dedication and perseverance of seeing a process through to the end, regardless of how insignificant it might appear on the surface. Certainly, nobody would have been the wiser if Barbara had ceased to pursue the town flag or given up partway through. It would have disappeared to the surprise of nobody. This replica flag was more than 5 years in the making. An observation by a town citizen touring the State House was hardly worth noting, but was an initiative championed by one citizen, Barbara Lewis, and supported by numerous others searching through the town history for the existence of a flag, true to the cause, even in sickness, to ensure the project was advanced as far as possible before being taken up by another town citizen. Other volunteers helping out along the way until the replica flag was finally finished. A flag that will hang in the Great Hall of Massachusetts State House, to be seen or recognized by less than probably 1% of those that tour the State House, and likely less than 1% of the citizens of Carlisle will ever see its hanging in the State House. As insignificant in our day-to-day lives maybe, but large in stature as a reminder that our unique culture that defines Carlisle is still alive and well. Thank you. And that concludes the ceremony for this afternoon. Appreciate everyone for coming. I wish I had refreshments, but instead, go home and get ready for the snowstorm. Thank you.